and 3.5. Corresponding angles and its converse. If two lines are cut by transversal, okay, and the corresponding angles are congruent, then you know the lines are parallel. So it's going to ask you, prove these lines are parallel. Well, if you notice that the corresponding angles are congruent, they're the same measurement, then you can prove that the lines are parallel. All right? Bending with alternate interior angles. If you've got lines cut by transversal and the alternate interior angles are congruent, then I can say that the lines are parallel. Okay? I can see that the lines, if angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, then I know those two lines, line J and line K, are parallel. You see those two little slash marks, that means parallel. They look more up and down on that because that's just the way I typed it. But all right, consecutive interior angles. They're not congruent. They're the different ones, right? The CIs, the consecutive interior angles, they have to be supplementary. What's supplementary mean? Right, they add up and equal 180. So if they add up to equal 180, then you know that these lines, J and K, are going to be parallel. All right, same thing. It's just kind of backwards of what we talked about the other day. If we have parallel lines and these things and they're congruent, well, if alternate interior angles, working backwards, if they're congruent, then the lines are parallel. Just working backwards. Is that okay? Questions on that part? It's working backwards from what we did the last class. All right, find the value of x that makes P parallel to Q. Remember, in order for them to be parallel, the lines have to be what? These are what type of lines? Cross the transversal in the inside. What is that? Anybody remember what these are called? Alternate what? Interior. So these are alternate interior angles. And in order for our alternate interior angles to prove that these lines are parallel, they have to be equal. So if they're equal, I do what to these things? I set them what to each other? If they're equal, I set them equal to each other. Beautiful. All right, now I have variables on both sides. We're just going over this in algebra. Variables on both sides. What do I need to do first? Get them on one side. Does it matter which one I move? No. I'm going to move the 6x's just because I don't like negatives. Bring down my positive 34. Bring down 9 minus 6 is 3x. Bring down my negative 2. Now what do I do? Good. So you need to move this 2 to the other side. You get 36 equals 3x. Then what? Divide by 3. All right. So you get x equals 12. Now let's make sure, what did it ask for? Find the value of x. So we didn't have to find the angle. We just had to find the value of x. So we're done. Is it okay? Questions? I'm sorry? All right, so these. I want to make these lines parallel. That is 3x plus 20. It's hard to see. And that's 5x. What kind of lines are these two? These two angles. They're exterior and they're across the transversal, so they're alternate exterior angles. In order for alternate exterior angles to be parallel, they have to be congruent. So 3x plus 20 has to be set equal to 5x. All right. Now in solving this is your algebra.
Where's the 5x at? Where's the 5x?
From this angle right here. Sorry, no, that's a parenthesis. 5x. So you need to move your x's to the other side. I chose to do 3x because the 5x is already by itself. Okay, it doesn't have a plus or minus anything.
Algebra.
Algebra. And you get 2x. You divide all sides by 2. And you get 10 equals x. That's all it asks for. Read your questions carefully. They may ask you to substitute it in and find the value of x, or the value of the angle. Okay, what kind of angles are these two? Interior. What kind of interior? Consecutive. Very good. Consecutive interior angles are the different ones. They add up to be what? 180. So 3x plus 15 plus the other angle, 20x, they add up to equal 108. Okay? So, combine like terms. What's 13 plus 20x? 33x plus 15 equals 180. Subtract 15 from both sides, and you get 33x equals 165. Good. You do 165 divided by 33. This gives you 5. Is that okay? So the things that you have to remember is consecutive interior add up to 180. Everything else is equal. Is that good?
It won't come out as the odd. Is that what you're saying? Equal.
Well, equal to each other. Set them equal to each other. All right? It's algebra and remembering what's what. All right, so here we go. You ready? I told you to get harder, right? Yeah. We're going to decide which lines are parallel. So I'm only looking at this one. Is AG, so I'm going to take and highlight it. AG and CE parallel. So here's my transfer. We can't go by the looks. You have to go by the actual measurements. Oh. All right? So what's this angle right here? They're vertical angles, and vertical angles are always equal, so that's 50. And these are 67. All right. So these match up, right? These two and this one match up. How about these two? Do they match up? Yeah. No, 146 and 150. So they're not parallel. Okay? Now, you can't go by pictures, as I said. You know, if I draw them. Yeah.
They look the same, they get, but it says something different.
Right. They may say something different. So, all right, for that one, it's a no. Right, because why? Because this angle, the corresponding angles were not equal, right? If they ask you, you know, you can say corresponding angles were not equal. All right, so BH is what we're looking at next. BH. And is it parallel to DF? And here's my transversal. So this is the only lines I'm looking at is the ones in red. All right. Let's see. What information do we know? Well, we know that this angle is 67, right? And this angle here is 67. What kind of angles are these?
67 degrees. Alternate interior.
They're alternate interior. And if the alternate interior angles are equal, then is this parallel?
Yes.
Yes.
B and H.
BH and line DF. So you look at that whole line in the transversal.
I don't get it because B's up here and H is right here.
BH is the line.
Oh.
The line BH. Right. Well, see, there wasn't enough information over here. So that 50, you don't know what this is. All right. So that's the next one. Well, we just did that, right? BH and DF, and we said yes because there's alternate interior angles that are congruent. Yep. All right, so we're going to do the next one. Decide whether BH is parallel to DF. We already did that. BIJ was 67. FJI was also 67 degrees. And that's how we knew. Yes, because of the alternate interior angles. All right, so let's look at these. I'm looking at the ray BA. So lots going on in my picture, but I don't really care. I'm only looking at the stuff they tell me to. And the ray DE. Okay, I'm looking at those two rays and this transversal. Are you with me? Okay. So what I'm trying to figure out is either like corresponding angles or consecutive interior angles or alternate interior angles, things like that that I can use to prove that these lines are parallel or not. All right. So these, the only thing they give me are consecutive interior angles. This angle and this one right here. Consecutive interior angles have to do what? Consecutive interior angles have to add up to what? Uh-huh. All right, so let's see. 90 plus 45, that's this whole angle that I just drew. And plus the other 45, does that equal 180? Yep. So are the lines parallel? Yep. Yes, because consecutive interior angles add up to be how much? 180. And they do. All right, so now let's look at this picture. We've got the ray BA, and we've got the ray DE. Looks pretty. And I'm looking at the transversal that goes through them. All right, the only thing I'm given on this piece of information is the 105. So that's an exterior angle. So we either have to look at corresponding angles or alternate exterior. There's not a corresponding angle. It's only a ray, right, not a line. So there's nothing over here that I have. So I've got to do the alternate exterior angles. We got to see if these are equal. The 71 plus 34, does it equal 105? Because alternate exterior angles have to equal. What is it? Well, that's 5. And that's 105, isn't it? So do they equal? Yes. And why are they parallel? Because of what? The alternate exterior angles are equal. Okay? All right. Here we go. Okay, these are just theorems, not a big deal. It's just things to remember. That's all I'm asking. It's going to be on your homework, so that's why I give it to you. If two lines are parallel to the same line, hey guys, listen up. I've got P is parallel to Q, and Q is parallel to R. Well, if that's the case, then P has to be parallel to R, right? Yeah. Do you see that concept? Everybody see that? If two of the lines are parallel, and then two of the other lines are parallel, they all got to be parallel to each other? Yeah. Okay. They share one that's parallel? Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So if you have a plane, everything's on the same plane, and two lines are perpendicular to the same line. So line M and line N are both perpendicular to line P. If that's the case, then you know the lines are parallel to each other. And you could have figured that out before, because these are corresponding angles, right? Yep. Corresponding angles are congruent, so that means that these lines are parallel. Also, you need to know that all these angles right here, all 90, and so are these. Very good. What do you remember? Y'all rock. All right, so here's my question. Are the vertical lines parallel? And explain. Yes. Why? Because 90 degrees. Good. They're all 90-degree angles. Well, but these are not like the same names. This would have to be 90 too, because these would be corresponding angles. Yes. But because one of them is 90, they're all 90 in this page. Because one of these are 90, these are all 90, so these got to be parallel. Because one of these, all of these are 90. And it works out the same way. Okay? Be careful, because sometimes you cannot tell. If they give you stuff like this, and they ask you which lines are parallel, you can't assume. Because you know all these are 90, and you know all these are 90, but they don't connect, right? So you can't tell. This one you could not tell what's going on. But this one you can. You would say, it would usually say you can't tell. It'd be a multiple choice, can't tell. So this is yes, they're parallel because all the angles are 90. All right angles. Beautiful. Any questions?